Hi friends, let's talk about the number one insulin secret to lose weight faster than ever. And if you listen carefully, it will change how you approach weight loss. Now, everyone talks about insulin because high insulin is why you can eat less, work out more, and still not lose weight. But then everyone, especially on social media, will tell you to cut back on carbs. And it probably worked for a week or so, but then it stopped working, which means your insulin level is still too high. What if it's not carbs that keeps your insulin high, but other ingredients in your food that determine whether you store fat or burn it? That's the insulin secret to stop struggling with weight loss. Like my friend who told me she can't lose weight no matter what she eats. She was ready to give up until I gave her one simple hack that got her motivated again because she felt satisfied and full and not deprived and starving. This hack focuses on getting insulin sensitive by eating carbohydrates. Wait, what? Now I know what you're thinking. Haven't you been told to stay away from all carbs to get insulin sensitive? Just eat keto or low carb, right? And you'll lose a ton of weight and have lower insulin. What they don't tell you is that just because you have insulin lower doesn't mean you are more insulin sensitive. And there is a huge difference in health outcomes because you may be losing the wrong kind of weight and then find yourself with complications like diverticulosis, IBS, low energy, poor memory, and fractures. These are all common with aging, but believe it or not, they are not the normal process of aging. That's not my colon. I have 0 diverticuli and 0 polyps. So in this video, let's talk about the number one ingredient in 10 foods that can get you insulin sensitive to lose the right weight, keep it off, and get you healthier as you age. Now, I have some of these foods right in front of me. If you aren't eating at the minimum of 2 pounds of foods that are collectively in this food group daily, you will forever struggle with gaining the bad kind of weight, the bad fat called visceral fat that makes you insulin resistant. But if you want to get insulin sensitive, you have to eat the right combination and enough of these foods daily at the minimum of 2 pounds a day. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but did you know that the average person eats 3 to 5 pounds of food every single day? So if you're not eating this number one ingredient to get you insulin sensitive, then what are you eating? Maybe peanut butter? You probably eat at least 2 pounds of protein like meat daily with half a pound of added sugars and fats. Half a pound of fat, that means 1,750 calories. 2 pounds of meat is about 1,300 calories. That is far too many calories of food that most sedentary people don't need. And if you're trying to lose weight, you gotta eat less. There's just no way around it. If you are trying to lose weight, you have to reduce your calories. However, we all know that that is not an easy thing to do because everybody gets hungry. And that's what happened to my friend. She got hungry. She was reducing her calories during her proper meals, eating clean, and then snacking on the wrong foods in between her meals to feel satisfied. Now notice how added fats, just half a pound, has more calories than 2 pounds of meat. By snacking on added fats, you just gain calories back so much faster despite eating less food at meal times. Eating more fat, whether that is in your meat or snacks, will keep you insulin resistant to gain fat, especially visceral fat, very quickly. But the internet is full of people losing a lot of weight when they eat more fat. That only happens if you're lowering your sugar and starch intake. Because when you add the combination of the two, added fat and added sugar, or added oils and added starch together, you just become more insulin resistant, have higher baseline insulin levels, which then is a signal to turn those excess calories into visceral fat. And yes, that means higher insulin levels makes you gain weight faster. So the ketogenic diet is an extremely fatty diet, 75% fat in everything that you eat. And if you're eating 2 pounds of meat, that's not a ketogenic diet unless you are topping that diet with even more pure fat. So in case you didn't know, protein also increases insulin. In fact, fish has the largest spikes of insulin. And when you eat more protein than you need, Well, that gets stored as fat. But when my friend front loaded some of these foods on her plate before every meal, she was able to eat the number one ingredient, and that's fiber, that increased her metabolic rate, reduced her calories, kept her full, lowered her insulin, and reduced her blood sugars to help her lose weight, burn off her visceral fat, and keep it off as long as she ate enough of the foods from these food groups. Diversity is a key for success. Kind of like diversifying your retirement portfolio. It's just never good to put all your eggs in one basket. And fiber, by the way, is not just one ingredient. And there's a reason why fiber looks the way it does in different foods. And when you eat nature's protective packages, like from a grape, they protect you from gaining visceral fat. Take this bean. Notice that beans have a skin or shell that some recipe actually ask you to remove it so that you can make the dish taste more smooth. Now, this shell is similar to the skin on, let's say, this grape, this raisin, and this peanut. You know, I have here a can of black beans, but it's true for kidney beans, garbanzo beans, pinto beans, oat groats, whole wheat, an apple or a kiwi. I think you get it right. All of these things have a tight-fitting protective shell. It functions like a plastic bag that protects your dry, clean clothes from getting dirty. Or it holds, let's say, a grain of rice so that starch doesn't spill out. But unlike plastic, that fiber that is holding your food, it doesn't destroy your environment. In fact, it adds to your health. So this skin adds to your health. And so does peanut skin. And that is why we need to eat the skins of plants. And if you think about it, why would God make, peanuts with skin or brown rice? And why is rice not naturally white, or these peanuts naturally white? White rice, by the way, is not a natural color. It's a highly refined processed grain devoid of essential nutrients and structure. And that's why it has killed hundreds and thousands of people in Asia. Simply because they were not eating a diversity of food and solely focused on eating white rice. It's highly processed. In fact, white rice is not a health food. But what if you didn't eat that white part of the rice and you just ate the outer skin? Would it taste as good? The answer is obviously no. And that's why people throw away the skin and just eat the inside. But history has proven time and time again that that's not a good idea if you want to achieve longevity. And what do people do with that information? They basically ultra process it and create a whole bunch of foods with it. Another processed food is peanut butter. So why don't they grind peanut butter with skin? And why is this peanut butter 90% peanuts? Shouldn't it be 100%? Why won't people eat this skin? What if I just made peanut butter with the skin of peanuts? Would you eat that? Probably not, because it's low in fat, high in fiber, high in polyphenols. And when you remove the skin, you're actually removing nature's protective package so that you don't absorb and gain all the calories, whether it's starch or fat or oils in these peanuts. So the outside of the skin, those plant parts, they're usually thick, rigid. It's basically built to protect it to survive drought, microbes, and storage. So this grape can turn into raisins because of the skin. And if you take that skin apart, it's dominated by insoluble fibers such as cellulose, hemicellulose, and they're tightly cross-linked together with other phenolitic compounds that protect your metabolism, like resveratrol. And if you think about it, this is wood, right? And this wood is full of energy. You know why? Because it's made out of sugar. But you can't digest this, but a termite can eat it. That's why termites eat up your home. Cellulose is what holds up your house, and it's literally made out of pure glucose. But you can't digest it because you don't have the teeth to chew it, and nor do you have the enzymes to digest through that wood. But if you were a termite, you can totally thrive eating wood. Sawdust is essentially cellulose, wood pieces. And as a result, if you ate sawdust, you wouldn't gain weight or get any nutrition from eating that. And I bet if you're eating a low-carb bread, there's probably some sawdust in that bread called cellulose. So unlike people adding pieces of cellulose to your food, nature has already designed a matrix of fiber called skins that wrap around whole food. And when you eat these skins, they're functionally caloric free. In fact, they can count as negative calories because it takes energy to digest them. But these skins, their power is in their matrix. Not only do they boost your metabolism through several different mechanisms, but they slow down the digestion digestion of the calories that are inside these seeds and grains and nuts. So this food matrix protects your metabolism from being overwhelmed by fats and starches when we process food. And in addition, these food matrices with the polyphenols, they inhibit digestive enzymes from turning our food into pure sugar to give us insulin spikes. So when you eat the original form, you get to keep your insulin low to help you lose weight. And I mentioned before that you can lose weight through several mechanisms, including not eating. But obviously, not eating is not a sustainable way of life. The key to getting your body healthy for longevity is to have a sustainable way to keep a healthy gut. And you have super special cells in your gut that has enzymes to turn fiber from seeds and fruits and beans and grains into powerful molecules that nourish the cells in your colon. So despite the fact that you don't have digestive enzymes to process fiber, these protective casings feed your gut microbes that can digest them. And unlike your biceps that prefer glucose for fuel, your colonic cells, they thrive on short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Short-chain fatty acids promote weight loss by boosting fullness hormones like GLP-1, PYY, and leptin. It reduces your appetite and increases fat burning through lipid oxidation. It improves insulin sensitivity and potentially increasing energy usage, primarily by signaling to the gut-brain axis and influencing metabolic pathways in fat and liver tissues. Your gut is a fermentation machine. It takes that fiber and ferments it in order for all this beautiful mechanisms to happen. And this is also why eating beans help you lose more weight. And this is how beans blunt post-meal glucose spikes. This is why we should all be eating beans with every meal, even young beans like edamame beans. Edamame beans have a softer outer layer. It's not quite as hard as this grape or like a mature soybean. And in the edamame bean, it has pectin and soluble fibers. And when I learned it's beneficial to add beans to every meal, I started exploring different ways I could add more beans to my diet. And that's when I discovered garbanzo bean flour, visiting a pizza shop in Buenos Aires. They had this dough thing that didn't look quite like a pizza, but it was circular and sold right next to the pizza. It turned out to be garbanzo bean flour that they would eat on top of pizza. It was delicious. So when I came home, I started searching for garbanzo bean flour, and guess who has a ton of them? Indian grocery stores. And this totally makes sense as they are predominantly a vegetarian culture, and they figured out a long time ago that beans are one of the best ways to stay lean, get healthy, and in fact, get insulin sensitive and to maintain a normal weight. Unfortunately, the traditional Indian diet, once heavy in beans, is now being replaced by Western, starchy, fatty junk food, along with lots of meat. And that, folks, is a saturated fat disaster. Between the meat and the ultra-processed food, that goes straight to your belly, kicking around organs like the liver and pancreas, and then infiltrating those organs to make you more insulin resistant. For the same weight, South Asians get more metabolic diseases like diabetes and metabolic syndrome. So if you don't want to get that, beans is one of those foods you gotta learn how to eat. And when you eat beans, your blood sugars stay more steady and they actually continue to drop even the day after you eat them. Hence, I try to eat beans with all my foods, including my baking, my desserts, salads, soups, entrees, and snacks. There's just no reason why people shouldn't be eating more beans. So for example, for a salad, make a 3-bean chopped salad by combining a bunch of cooked beans. You can have chickpeas, cannellini beans, and black beans. And then finally dice some crunchy cucumbers, some red onions to give it a little kick, some parsley, and some cherry tomatoes. Now you dress it with some lemon juice, a little bit of vinegar, a dash of extra virgin olive oil, some crushed garlic, and a pinch of cumin. And the beans provide slow digesting carbohydrates, resistant starch, magnesium, and potassium while keeping your insulin low and your blood sugar steady. For the soup, prepare a creamy white bean and rosemary soup by sauteing onion, celery, and garlic in a small amount of olive oil. And then you add cooked Great Northern beans or even navy beans, some vegetable broth, fresh rosemary, and a little bay leaf. You simmer that briefly and you blend it until smooth, and you finish it with some black pepper and a splash of lemon. That creamy texture comes entirely from the beans. You don't need to add any cream. And the soup delivers soluble fiber that feeds your beneficial gut microbiome to support you to lower your cholesterol, clear your bile acids, and stabilize your blood sugars. Now for your entree, you can make a smoky lentil and black bean stuffed bell pepper by mixing cooked lentils and black beans with sauteed onion, garlic, paprika, and cumin, and a small amount of tomato paste. Now you spoon that mixture onto half a bell pepper and you bake it until it's tender. Now this dish, it provides a complete amino acid profile with the lentils and the beans combined, along with iron, zinc, folate, and polyphenols that support your immunity and metabolism. And if you're still in the mood for a snack, try roasting some crispy chickpeas or butter beans by tossing the cooked well-dried beans with some smoked paprika, garlic powder, and a little light coating of olive oil. Bake it until it's crunchy. These make a portable, high-fiber alternative to chips with far better blood sugar stability and satiety because the starch remains embedded in the intact plant cell walls. And you'll love this for dessert. Make a naturally sweetened chocolate black bean pudding. It's so easy. You just blend a black beans with cocoa powder, some dates, a little splash of vanilla, and some plant milk so that you can turn it in the blender. Mix it until it's smooth. The beans will disappear into the texture, creating a dense mousse-like dessert rich in fiber, magnesium, and flavonoids while avoiding refined flour, added oils, or isolated protein chemicals. I'm telling you, beans are it. The other day, my friends and I went to go feed the in-house in Los Angeles, and we made several hundred people bean burritos. Look at these burritos. Guess how many we made? Actually, guess how much it cost to make them? About 85 cents. This is the cheapest we could find. You can't beat that price. The cheapest burrito that we could find if we bought it from a restaurant was $5 a burrito. We basically made it ourselves. A nutritious, delicious, high protein, high fiber, homemade burrito to feed over 300 people. And it costs $255. Now, if you can meet that price with the same amount of fiber and protein, please write it in the comments. I would love to know how you did it. Okay, maybe you don't have time to cook beans. Guess what? Did you know that they sell cooked canned beans ready to eat? Just rinse and eat. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can find them for less than 50 cents for 3.5 servings. And the only way you would beat that price, cook your own from scratch. My friend found this deal at Amazon Fresh, and he ended up paying closer to 40 cents a can because Amazon Fresh apparently has deals over the holidays. 1 cup of beans has almost 17 grams of fiber and 17 grams of protein. You won't find a better, more nutritious, more convenient, cheaper source of protein and fiber in one bite. Oh, by the way, if you're worried about plastic, just rinse it. You're gonna get more microplastics drinking that hot coffee in those lined cups. So the point is, when you avoid all carbs, that might improve your total insulin levels in the short term, or as long as you don't eat any carbs, but that actually doesn't get you insulin sensitive. And for most people, they basically can't keep up the diet because they don't feel satisfied and they struggle with just feeling good. My friend, she tried a low carb ketogenic diet. She tried calorie counting apps. She tried food scales, intermittent fasting, cutting carbs, eating a lot of protein. She even worked out like a maniac. And at first, she lost 10 pounds, but she got stuck at that weight. And sooner or later, her weight always bounced right back up and she would always end up gaining more weight. Why? Simply because her diet was not satisfying. She was always hungry, always craving for comfort foods. Starch texture gives people that comfort food taste. And because she wasn't consistent, she would be snacking on her comfort foods because she was looking for starch. She was stress snacking, trying to judge motherhood, going back to school herself, studying late at night, running on low energy because she was low carbing. She was more stressed, and then it felt like her body was working against her. So no matter what she ate, she just couldn't keep the weight off because she wasn't following the rules of eating.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Basically, the healthiest, fastest, and most effective way to lose weight is to get your insulin down. You have to get your insulin sensitive. And basically, it starts with meals with fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, of course, if you starve yourself, you can lose weight even faster, but that's not a sustainable diet. Hence, fasting, that's not a practical diet. Notice how after you fast, you gain the weight right back. And a lot of times you're gaining actually more weight. And then you have to fast again because you haven't trained your brain to seek different foods. And far too many people, even with a paragraph of degrees behind their name, have unfortunately the wrong preconceived ideas how food interacts with their brain and body because they simply don't understand the biochemistry, not only of human physiology, but how food in the original matrix is protective of us. Unfortunately, too many people distract themselves by focusing on a single data point, like a blood sugar spike or a absolute number on a weight scale, not realizing that changing those numbers does not necessarily mean that you're actually changing your brain cravings. And that will dictate if you will be successful in the long term because your brain makes you overeat the wrong foods. And for lots of people, I understand it's easier to give up all food than it is to be selective about the foods you eat. Because simply if you eat nothing at all, you will lose weight. But that doesn't equal to longevity. If you haven't rewired your brain cravings, you really won't change the foods that are taxing your health and making you gain weight in the first place. Now, in order to master your diet, your thoughts before you eat, when your food hits the tongue, and after you swallow food, they all need to be in sync. These are all points in which dopamine is released, the same signaling molecule that keeps a gambler gambling and a smoker smoking. It also makes weight loss impossible. And unfortunately, the food industry, they totally understand that psychology, and they have designed the foods to spike your dopamine. They are literally preying upon people who are trying to eat healthy by mixing dopamine spiking ingredients with some healthy items. So this Christmas, I gave away my homemade high fiber protein granola bar. It's designed to support people's sweet cravings while promoting the loss of visceral fat to help them lose weight. And why does it promote visceral fat loss? Because I have no additives in it. I only use whole foods with the protective coatings, including in the nuts and the seeds and the dates. And usually granola bars, they make people fat because they add sugar used to glue the bar together. I glued the bar with flax seeds. But without fat, when you add sugar, it tastes hard, like peanut brittle. They soften it with added fats. I soften my granola bar with flax seeds. Soluble fiber softens baked goods. And my bar tastes sweet because I use whole fruit in it. I use dates. I didn't add any date sugar or dates paste. There's no artificial sweeteners. Those are all chemicals. They're not real food. Yes, I know. People have been eating sugar for thousands of years, but it doesn't mean it's good for you. And it definitely wasn't available to everybody. It was only available to elite, super rich people who could afford added sugar because it was a boatload of work to process that sugar. And that was the case until the Industrial Revolution. Now, have you ever gone in the museum and looked at how they painted rich people? Rich people were usually those ones who are morbidly obese, overeating added fats and sugars. It wasn't good for people back then, nor is it good for us now. People have been doing not so bright things for eons. Take lead, for example. We used to use lead in our food serving plates and utensils, and it even piped our water. And that was done for thousands of years, dating back to 6500 BC in Turkey. Lead is a neurotoxin, folks, poisons your brain and your blood. Yet it was used to support drinking water and to serve food. And lead wasn't regulated until the 20th century. But lots of people were talking about the dangers long before that. And let's take now isolated fats. Those are chemicals. That's not a food. Even if you make something from something that's all natural, doesn't mean that that's good for you. For example, soybean oil. That's been used in China since 1000 AD. And then we took it and made it into margarines and vegetable shortenings, loading it with trans fats. And then we're spreading it on breads, adding it to baked goods and snacks and processed meals and sauces. It's basically everywhere. And now we know it packs on visceral fat. But seriously, how is soybean oil healthy? Just because it's purified from a natural soybean. It's like purifying cyanide from apple seeds. So if you're gaining unexpected weight, you are gaining the bad kind of fat weight, the visceral fat that cakes around your liver and your pancreas, making you insulin resistant. There's no bodybuilder who's surprised that he or she is gaining weight. They work hard to gain that weight because they're gaining muscle weight. And you got to exercise to gain muscle. But just because you look good on the outside, it doesn't mean you're healthy on the inside. I can literally look at what you eat regularly and tell what you look like inside. The bottom line is, if you aren't eating enough of a variety of fresh fibrous food, basically pounds of fresh, fibrous, hydrated whole foods a day, you are unlikely to keep your weight off and be healthy on the inside and insulin sensitive. And now I know some of you will want to take a shortcut and just take it to a fiber supplement. You can eat that, but are you seriously going to be eating pounds of that stuff? I don't think that's healthy. That's definitely not nutritious, and it's definitely not food. And frankly, if you spend your money buying whole foods, you're not going to need to spend your money on fiber supplements if you're supplementing with the right kind of whole foods. Fiber supplements are made for people who don't want to eat enough of the real food. And I know some of you have food intolerances. Absolutely true. And for those people who aren't used to eating high fiber foods, they need to slowly incorporate fibrous foods into their diet. It's because a colon is like a muscle. Just like your biceps, you can't just go and lift 300 pounds of weight, right? It requires training over time. And the same is with your colon. You got to train it to tolerate fiber and introduce it slowly. So literally, if you want to learn how to eat beans, start with eating a bean a day and then add another bean a day. So like a bean with every meal, and then you add another bean to every meal. So you're eating 2 beans per meal until you feel so uncomfortable that you then back off and you go back to the amount of beans that you were comfortable at. And you do that for about a week to get used to how that feels. And then you add more beans. Eventually, you will reach up to a cup per meal. That would be the goal within the next 6 months. And hopefully you can work up to 1.5 cups of cooked beans a day, 1.5 cup for every meal. Remember, this is a cup of cooked hydrated beans, not dehydrated beans. And much of the bean will be water weight. Because simply when you're eating more water-rich foods, you simply eat less calories. And that's why it's important to front load every meal with fruit and vegetables. And someone used to tell me that they didn't want to give their children fruit before their meals because it would ruin their appetite. That's actually the whole point. If you actually eat foods high in hydration, it makes you full. So you eat less of the junky, highly caloric foods that cause you to be insulin resistant, to gain visceral fat. The wonderful thing is you can pick your favorite fruits. Just make sure to eat them fresh, not processed, not with dipping sauces or with creams. And if you want to learn about the most powerful foods for weight loss, watch the next video.